Going on, Falcon fans? What we're gonna do? Come back at you with another video. And today, we're gonna talk about the rumors that's been circulating around the NFL. Um, and I'm pretty sure all you guys have heard the rumors. And guess what? It's that time of the season where there's so many rumors. Um, because people want to get their thoughts out there and what they think. None of this stuff has been you know verified or validated by the organizations and things like this. But people got jobs to do, and a lot of people just put stuff out that they would like to see happen, and things like that. I mean, just like last year, the rumor about Atlanta Falcons, um, potentially trying to go get Lamar Jackson, and they had to come out, during the middle of offseason say that they're not pursuing Lamar Jackson, right? But this is what happens. Rumors out. It's a lot of rumors out there, and two rumors I want to talk about today, and in particular, of course, you guys know what's the state for Atlanta Falcons this offseason. It's all about the quarterback position. But the rumors I want to talk about today is that it was a rumor put out yesterday, and if you guys go out there and look on it, and it was on X. It was talking about the Atlanta Falcons really had interest in signing Kirk Cousins in free agency. So we're going to talk about that, and then also there's another rumor came out that the Atlanta Falcons, would be pursuing Justin Fields in a trade as well. So both of those quarterbacks definitely is an option that's on the table for the quarterback position for these Atlanta Falcons. Of course, with a whole nother, avenues they can go, another different other quarterback that they can definitely, target as well. Of course, you got the draft, you got more free agents out there. Got potential guys that haven't even been released from their teams yet, like a Russell Wilson that could be considered as well. But right now, these are two hot names that a lot of people have been talking about. And we're going to talk about it today. I'm definitely going to get my thoughts on it. I want to hit on the pros and cons of both. Both of these these decisions, if they decide to go this route, the Atlanta Falcons on both, implication, what would it mean for this team? But at the same time, guys, you just got to keep an open mind about this. And then neither of these guys might be a choice. So that's why I want to, is one of these guys the best option or neither of these guys, I have went on the record and saying that I think the Atlanta Falcons should go out and actually get a rookie quarterback. However, that's what we're going to talk about today, because it might not just be an option for them to go get one of those top three rookies, because so many teams and quarterback needy teams in this league. So, they have to take the options. So all the options got to be on the table. They got to do what's best for the Atlanta Falcons, but they got to consider these two decisions as well. So, and there's rumors out there, and we're going to talk about, like I said, there are pros and cons for both, bringing both guys in. And at the end of the day, just like all quarterbacks that you bring in, you don't know how it's going to turn out. It's a crapshoot, especially when you're going to talk about that quarterback position. You just don't ever know. So they got to make a decision, and hopefully it's going to end up being the best decision. So we'll just have to see. But guys, before we get started, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to this channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know when I drop another video. Please hit the like button so I know you guys out here I talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people, more Falcon fans, more anybody that's want to talk about, this team, this Atlanta Falcon team. Let's hit and subscribe, and guys, let's get to it. So first of all, we're going to talk about Kirk Cousins. Like I said, it was a report out yesterday that Kirk Cousins would, that the Atlanta Falcons had a lot of interest in Kirk Cousins, right? We all know that Kirk Cousins is a free agent for the Minnesota Vikings, and this man is a genius when it comes to doing contracts. This just call it what it is, right? He was the first NFL football player to actually get a guaranteed contract, when he went to the Minnesota Vikings. So, and he's been getting guaranteed contracts throughout his career since he started that whole thing with the Minnesota Vikings, right? So he did 6 seasons with the Washington team, right now, which is the Commanders, right? And then he did 6 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings. So he done did 6 seasons with both teams. He was with Washington. He was drafted the same year Robert Griffin III was actually drafted, right? And we know how that relationship was. I think they franchised him tag twice, and with the Commanders to keep him there. And he actually finally got out of there. He got a guaranteed contract to go to Minnesota. So Kirk Cousins has had a good career in the NFL. Let's just say that. So we're going to talk about the pros first, right? And when I talk about Kirk Cousins, I definitely want to talk about the pros first because there is upside to bringing Kirk Cousins into the Atlanta Falcons. So we think about the pros, right? We think about the experience, right? He's a experienced NFL starting quarterback, coming to a team that if they just find a good quarterback, and I think most of us felt like had an experienced NFL quarterback last year, despite play calling and all that, we would have been in the playoffs, right? We probably would have won NFC South. We probably might have had a chance to actually beat the Philadelphia Eagles because we would have hosted a home game, right? And then you don't know what would happen. We went to Detroit, might have had a chance to knock those guys off, get a rematch, of the game in the season and all those things. So having a veteran quarterback, that is the first thing that the Atlanta Falcons can definitely look at, right? And, we will have an opportunity this season bringing in Kirk Cousins to be having experience there. And so it would be a good thing. Probably would end up being a playoff team, more than likely, if everything goes right with this team. It will be good for the new coaching staff to hit, to start the season, start their career, especially this new coaching regime, on the right note, right? Get into the playoffs and things like that. So it'll be a lot of things that you could think about that honestly, where Kirk Cousins is that will be the pros, right? That's would be the pros. I mean, he has pretty much been consistent throughout his career. Now he has 270 touchdowns, 110 interceptions, and what's interesting, he has 55 interceptions with each team, right? So 6 seasons with the Washington team, got 55 INTs. 6 seasons with the Minnesota Vikings, he got 55 INTs. So, like I said, he's consistent. Over 39,000 yards total in his 12 seasons. But that's about it, right? Like I said, a good, solid starting quarterback in the NFL, right? And those are diamond. Like what I'm not saying that dies devil. It's not a lot of good quality starting quarterbacks in the NFL. So if you got one, that's where the Atlanta Falcons would be if they decide to go with Kirk Cousins. All right. So those are the pros, right? So let's get into the cons, right? Let's talk about the negative. Why, my opinion. So this is not my decision to bring him in. And first of all, he'd be 36 years old, right? That's already a red flag for me. 36 years old, coming off an Achilles injury, right? Coming off now, he's not the guy that you need to utilize his legs a lot. He's a pocket guy. So, I mean, he has been in that West Coast offense that Kyle Shanahan's hand, offense a lot in his career. So he understands the offense. So I understand that would be a good positive thing. But his age, coming off the Achilles injury, the price tag that has been mentioned, what he's looking for, right? That's one of the things. And then we just talked about how good he is, negotiating contracts, right? Getting guaranteed contracts. So, and then do we want to just be a team that just get to the playoff and say that was a good season, right? Because I think he can get us there, but can he get us over the top? Because if you look at his career, he has not been a guy that has got his team past, certain points, in his career. So we would be a good team. We would be a solid team. But do we want to be a middle pack team with a guy who's 36 years old and then we had to cough out all that money, right? Coming off an Achilles injury. So those would be the negatives. So that's one of the reasons why, in my opinion, if the Atlanta Falcons decide to go this route, it would be more of what I was saying. They just trying to make sure they be successful in their first season. They try to make to the playoffs. Have that foundation saying, yes, we are a competitive team. We made it to the playoffs. And be honest with you, when you get to the playoffs, you never know what could happen, right? Because you can get some luck, people get injured and things like that, and you could actually end up in the Super Bowl. I'm just saying that could happen. So the first goal is to get into the playoffs. So that would be a good thing for the Atlanta Falcons to get the playoffs, because you never know what happened to get there, right? So that could be the route they take if they're thinking that way. And we right now, we don't have a clue of what their thought process is, what they're doing. Now, at the same time, if they decide to take a Kirk Cousins, a 36-year-old Kirk Cousins, that means they could actually draft the quarterback maybe in the second round or something like that, and have Kirk Cousins be sort of like that bridge quarterback, right? So just say if a guy like Michael Penix Jr. dropped to the second round, right, you can actually pick him up, let him stay behind a guy like Kirk Cousins, learn the ropes. You can be developing a young quarterback like the Green Bay Packers did with Jordan Love. So you can look at it that way as well. So those are some of the things, reason why Kirk Cousins could be a fit here. A lot of people believe, right? And if you look around the so-called football analysts that's out there talking, a lot of people believe that this Atlanta Falcons team is, really just a quarterback away from being really competitive, right? And honestly, they think we could own the NFC South. So bringing in Kirk Cousins, I can understand why they would want to do that, but then they would have to have, a plan, a long-term plan for the future, because, I know I wouldn't consider him being our franchise quarterback for the next 6 or 7 or 8 years, right? In my opinion, he would be a guy you bring in. You would probably draft the guy, have him sit behind and develop, and then you would go from there. So that could be a decision they take. We don't know, but I really want to hear from you guys. So let's go to the message board. Let's look at some of these comments here about a Kirk Cousins. So if we get a quarterback in free agent, who let go? We have 4, right? So you're saying if we get a quarterback in free agent, who would let go? So right now, if they was to get a free agent, just say they get Kirk Cousins, more than likely they're gonna probably release Taylor Heineke. They give them cap space back, about $7 million of cap space, right? So that's the one thing they would do. So Taylor Heineke probably be gone. Of course, Logan Woodside, he I don't even think he's on the contract this year, so Logan Woodside will be gone. You probably keep a guy like Desmond Ridder here because he's on the contract, on a cheap contract. He could be the backup quarterback, but you'll free up that cap space by releasing Taylor Heineke. So that would be where they would go in free agency if they decide to do that. And then, like I said, you can actually draft one, and then that would be your third quarterback, right? And then it was a rumor out there that maybe, they could package Desmond Ridder in a trade deal to get some more draft capital or something like that as well. So then you could have Kirk Cousins and then your rookie on the roster. A lot of teams do keep 3 quarterbacks, so I wouldn't see an issue with them drafting a rookie, having Desmond as the backup, and then having a guy like Kirk Cousins be your starting quarterback. As free agent, Cousins, Wilson, or Mayfield could be fine with me. There you go. I'm be honest with you. Baker Mayfield, I think Baker Mayfield is going to go back to Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It would be interesting. I'm not lying, because he really played well this past season. Baker Mayfield really played well this past season. So it's not my option. I'm going to say that. But I get it. He does have, familiarity with a guy like Zach Robinson, Raheem Morris, because he played with the Rams, in that one season, and it actually did pretty well for those guys. So I'm not freaking saying no on Baker Mayfield, but I am saying no on Baker Mayfield. Don't want to talk about Wilson yet until he get released, because he's still part of the Denver Broncos. We're not going to make a trade for him. So once he get cut, then that's when I think that rumor is really going to start picking up. It is already a rumor out there that he definitely could come to the Falcons, but until he get released by the Denver Broncos, I'm just going to hold off on my comments about a guy like Russell Wilson. Stingy, get a free agent vet quarterback and keep the draft pick. Yep, I mean, yeah, I get you. I get you. The draft is really good, right? But when we talk about Justin Fields, we'll get into that draft pick. Let's see here. I was looking at trading down and getting more picks. There you go. It's a good idea. If you get a free agent, if you was to get a free agent quarterback, that could definitely be an opportunity to trade down and actually get more. If the Vikings wanted this guy back, they would have to made it clear by now. Only a foolish organization would pay this guy. No thanks. There you go. So, and a lot of people might have that same sentiment. Bringing this guy, especially if he want $90 million. I agree with that. It is too much. I don't think the Falcons would pay that anyway. But that's he's been fleecing the league for a while, man. I mean, this dude he's awesome in getting contracts. So that's one of the things that we definitely got to look at and see how Kirk Cousins keep fleecing the lead on these contracts. Good point. I gotta feel we trading up in the draft. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I say about trading up in the draft, you got to have another player to be able to do that. That's really the only way. I agree with you. If they could trade up in the draft, with one of those teams got to want to be able to trade, right? All those teams that we're trying to trade with, their quarterback need his team too, so they would have to be willing to trade out of their top three, one of those top three spots, because they must have another option at quarterback. That would be the only reason they would want to trade. So you need, two people to play the game, and that's the only reason they could actually trade up if another team want to trade with them. I don't want to trade up for Drake May. A lot of people feel that about Drake May. I would trade up for any three of those guys, honestly. Not for me. He said he want Jaden. I like I said, for me, I trade up for all three. Ready to get ready to get some Super Bowl rings. It's a big decision with this quarterback, man. Talking about Super Bowls. Temple have cap issues. Talking about bringing back Evans and tagging Winfield Jr. Right. So that is a great point. And they're gonna lose Devin White as well. Don't forget about that. So, Tampa got a real issue with, but Tampa in the same boat with any other team. They got to figure out the quarterback position. So, I think they got to pay Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's going to be one of the highest paid quarterback in the league, but I still can see Baker Mayfield getting over $30 million a year. I mean, Daniel Jones got $40 million a year, over $40 million a year. So, and Baker Mayfield better than Daniel Jones. So, I'm just saying, like, they got to make a decision what they're going to do. 330 says, can we afford to pass up on Dallas Turner at 8? It depends on what they do in free agency, right? If they addressed pass rusher in free agency, I mean, go back and look at some of the guys I talked about, Brian Burns, Danielle Hunter, and Josh Allen. Any of those guys that would address that need they have for pass rusher, then yes, they could definitely. And believe it or not, guys, just so let's stay here with me, right? So just say they go get, a Kirk Cousins. They could actually draft another receiver at number 8. And, it'd be crazy to think that way, but it's some really talented receivers that could definitely go top 10. You got Malik Neighbors, you got Rome Oduze, right? You have, of course, you got Marvin Harrison Jr. So I think all three of those guys that I just mentioned really have potential to go in the top 10, right? And so if the Atlanta Falcons was to address pass rusher in the free agency, and they already got a veteran quarterback, just say they get like a guy like Kirk Cousins, they can actually go and get another receiver, which would be insane to draft, in the Terry Fontenot, regime to draft 4 offensive players. But I could definitely see that the case, because when you're talking about best player available, right? You can't convince me that one of those receivers wouldn't be a best player available, at that point. So, if you dress your needs in free agency, then it's really easy for you to just take the best player on the board. And believe it or not, they do have a need for a receiver, because we only got one receiver on the roster right now. So it wouldn't be a reach to get a receiver, because we only have one receiver, and Drake London need a partner. So it's just throwing that out there, because those receivers are really talented, right? So just a food for thought for that. Can't wait to see who they get. I know, man, it's insane. If we trade up for Daniels, we might as well trade for Fields, same player. Okay, so we're going to talk about Fields. So see that, Nathan, that's great transition. That's how we right here, man. Great transition. So another rumor that was out, and we're going to talk about Justin Fields, right? So I have one on the record about Justin Fields, and Justin Fields, if you look at his stats and his numbers and stuff, most people be like, why on earth would anybody want to trade for Justin Fields, right? So, but it's pros and cons for going to get a guy like Justin Fields, and I'm going to definitely talk about the pros and cons. So let's talk about his stats first. He has passed for 6,674 yards. He's been in the league 3 years, right? And he has 40 touchdowns, passing touchdowns, and 30 interceptions. So, right, so nobody can sell that Justin Fields has played well, right? I mean, you can't go off and look at the stats and try to sell that Justin Fields has been this outstanding player, in the league so far, right? It just has not happened for him in Chicago, right? Now he has had 2,220 yards rushing, and he has had 14 TDs rushing. So if you total that up, he has 54 touchdowns and 30 interceptions, right? So that's where he is in his 3 years, right? He has played 40 games. So we have seen a 40-game sample size for Justin Fields, right? So those are his stats, guys. It's no other way to look at it. So you're looking at the stats, and if you didn't know who the kid was and you put the stats up in 3 seasons and you try to sell anybody that we're going to go get this guy, and everybody will be like, why would you go get this guy? 3 seasons, 40 games, 54 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, right? Terrible quarterback rating, all these things that that you would not want to have in the starting quarterback is that's no other way to look at it, right? No other way to look at it. So I know you're saying, well, what's the positive, right? What's the positives? So I'm going to give you the pros. Why Atlanta Falcons could definitely consider their Justin Fields. So first of all, I mean, everything is in context. He has had about 2 or 3 different offensive coordinators in his 3 seasons, right? He has had 2 head coaches during that time, right? His offensive line has not been good. They finally gave him a target, a good top receiver this season, and guess what? That receiver had his best career, since best season since he been in the league, and DJ Moore, right, with Justin Fields. So once he got a good receiver, you start to see flashes. You really start to see flashes. So that's one thing you got to see. Like I said, he had different offensive coordinators. The game was just too fast for him, right? Those are some of the things. Those sound like excuses, but there are facts as well. Just like the stats, we put up the facts with the stats. Those are the facts about his situation in Chicago. It is what it is, right? The offensive line has not been good, so they need to work on the offensive line. They finally got a number one target for the guy, right? So you got to have consistency, right? Going from one offense to another offense, having different coaches come in and out does not help a young football player, no matter what position they play. It just does not help that, right? Right. 2022, you saw flashes, right? He ran the ball for 1,143 yards. Really showed a lot of flashes about some of the things he could do. So the pros, here we go, guys. I'm gonna try to sell Justin Fields because you can't sell him off the stats. You can't sell him out the sample size of 40 games. And nobody would ever try to. If you're trying to do that, you're fooling yourself and trying to make something that's have not been good, make it taste good. It's just like it's not the case, right? It's like like they said, you put steak and all that on a freaking trash can lid and try to eat it, right? It don't look good, right? So you can't sell it that way. So the reason why the Atlanta Falcons could consider Desmond Ridder because he's only 25 years old, right? I just talked about the inconsistencies in his coaching staff and in his development. That is a fact. Those are facts as well. So the inconsistencies in his development, he's on 5, right? And then the last thing, the reason why I think the Atlanta Falcons could definitely consider Desmond Ridder. I mean, not Desmond Ridder, Justin Fields, is because the ceiling, right? You're looking at his potential, right? He can do things that other players in the league can't do, right? He can. And I'm not just talking about running the ball. That's part of his game, yes. I'm talking about throwing the ball. He can make all the throws. He actually is an accurate deep passer thrower. He is. Go back and look. He can throw the ball deep, right? So he has shown flashes. So his ceiling is really there, right? Secondly, you have to tailor the offense to fit the player. You have to, right? If you go back and look, they ran the ball so well in 2022, and for some reason they decided to take that away with his strengths away from him in 2023. They ran the ball less in 2023. That's one of his strengths. If you go look at a guy, and I'm not comparing him to a 2-time MVP and Lamar Jackson, but Lamar Jackson's strength is his legs. So they utilize that as well as his arm, and you have to be able to do that. He that's the kind of player he is. If you don't utilize his skill set to fit who he is, it probably is not going to work for him. You can't make a guy like Justin Fields a complete pocket passer because that's just not his game. You go look at what Josh Allen does, right? Josh Allen utilizes his legs. He's a big quarterback, similar to Justin Fields. He can actually go out and he can do those things, right? So those are the pros. It's just if they believe in his ceiling. Yes, you have 40 game sample size, but if you put it in context, inconsistencies with the coaching staff, not putting him in the right system to be, to develop the way he needs to develop, not having weapons, poor offensive line, all these things is true, right? It's not like you put him in a situation with offensive line intact, you got all the weapons, your defense is solid. No, that's not the situation he came in. It's just these are facts. So if you want to put him in a stable environment, right? This is a way to go. This is the way to go. Second of all, because of all those stats and things I just talked about, and that's 40 game sample size, they got to give what they get in trade compensation, right? It'll be dumb for a team to give up like a first round pick, right? And honestly, to be honest with you, I think a second round pick might be too much. However, if you think he's your guy, second, go ahead and get the second, especially if a guy like Calvin Ridley, signs the deal. Now, Atlanta Falcons have 2 seconds. They can afford to give up one of those seconds because, they have a one in the hole, right? So that's what I'm saying. So, second of all, and I know, people don't look at this, but the energy in Atlanta would be enormous. It just would. And it's a business as well. It really is a business. And I want to win more than anybody. I've been an Atlanta Falcon fan forever. But, they're looking at the dollars. The story about Justin home to play for the Atlanta Falcons, and you put him in the right system, and he could deliver a championship to this city would be amazing, right? It would put butts in seats, right? And I'm not trying to recreate Michael Vick, right? Because you guys seen what I said about Michael Vick. Michael Vick, we was here 6 seasons. We only had 2 winning seasons. So I'm not trying to recreate the Michael Vick experience, which was amazing, by the way. It really was amazing. But I'm not trying to recreate that. But what I'm trying to tell you guys, if you look at the reason why, and you don't have to pay him right away. I want to make sure everybody understands that he's going into his 4th season. Now, they will have to make a decision if they want to pick up his 5th option or not. And they do that. It's about $21 million for next season on the books. And then they will have to make a decision. Do they want to actually extend him and get a contract? So this season, they don't have to make a decision if they want to pay him. And then next season, yes, they'll have a $21 million cap hold for him, but they pretty much got 2 seasons to decide if they want to give Justin Fields a big contract or not. They got this season, and if they pick up the 5th option next season, they have 2 seasons to decide that. So everybody's saying you got to give him a contract. That is not the case. That is not the case. You don't have to give him a $40 million, $50 million contract right away. You can find out if he's your guy, right? And the only thing you gave up was a 2nd-round pick to do that. And if he turns out to be that, you win-win. You have your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years because he's only 25, right? That would be the reason why the Atlanta Falcons decided to make this change. And the last thing I'm going to say about why the Atlanta Falcons just definitely could, consider Justin Fields, his youth, right? The ceiling, the upside, coming home, all that stuff, right? Do away with the 40-game sample size, because if you're trying to use that to say that's why we're going to bring him in, you're not being honest with yourself, because he hasn't played well, right? He just hasn't. That's you can't sell that, right? You can't, man. I'm just being honest. 40 games is a lot of games, right? And looking at numbers, so that's not the reason why you're saying, well, look at what he did. It's reasons why he played that way. I just laid those out to you guys. But what I'm telling you is the last reason, because the Atlanta Falcons might not have a choice. They might not have a choice. And what I mean by that is because, like I said, I want us to go get one of those rookie quarterbacks. However, you might not be able to do that. You might not be able to go out and get one of those rookie quarterbacks because other teams up front might stay pat. They might just say, hey, I want one of these young quarterbacks. And 1, 2, and 3 is going to come off the board, right? Now the Atlanta Falcons will have to. They will have no choice but to take one of these other options. They will have to go in free agency. They will have to trade, right? Or they will have to actually draft one of the other guys that might not have the ceiling as a guy like Justin Fields, right? So that's where we got to look at it, right? Those are things. That's why when I look at this, it's a tough decision to make because it's a gamble, right? Like I said, this young kid has already played 40 games, right? And he might just don't have it. I mean, he played 40 games, right? He might just don't have it. But, change the scenery. Like I said, you put him in a stable system, tailor the system around your players. That's what every coach should do anyway, right? You should put your players and play them to their strengths. Right? He showed flashes throughout his career, right? He can make every throw. The kid is a big kid, right? He can take it. So you utilize him, right? Look at what the Philadelphia Eagles did for Jalen Hurts. They tailored the offense around him. That's why he was so good, right? If you go back and look at Jalen Hurts' first 2 seasons, they wasn't spectacular. They really wasn't. Let's just be honest. They was not that good, right? But when you put a system around your talent that you got and utilize him to his strengths, all right, you go back to um what San Francisco did for Colin Kaepernick. Go back to what um Baltimore did for Lamar Jackson. This is what I'm saying. I get it. I understand that it would be a risk, but giving up a second round pick, in my opinion, is it's not that bad. Especially, if the outcome is that you got a franchise quarterback for the next 10 years, right? So if and this is a big if the Atlanta Falcons can't move up, like we were saying, like move up in the draft, take one of these young guys, right? Because now you will have a guy that you can groom throughout his career, and it's no guarantee that any of these guys are going to be good either, right? Because just never know about how their game translates to the pros. But what I'm telling you is that they might not be able to do that. So if they cannot get one of these young quarterbacks, and I'm not talking about the second tier guys like a JJ McCarthy, like a Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix. No, you don't want to take any of those guys in the top 10, in my opinion. So if you can't get the other three, the May, the Daniel, or the Williams, this might be the option they have to go. It just might be the option. And I hope I laid out the pros for it. Of course, the cons is, he already been in the league for 3 seasons and he has not delivered, on any consistent basis at all. So if anybody want to, and you have to go by that, you have to look at what he has done, right? However, sorry about that, guys. I think I got knocked off. Hey, that's what happens on when you go live on the internet, right? That's what happens. You go. All right, so let's get into some of these comments, guys. When we talk about, like I said, I hope I sold Justin Fields, right? I don't know, but I understand what I mean by that is if the reason why they would go with him, that's just could be the reason why, right? Honestly, either one of these guys is a risk, right? If you go get a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's 36 years old, coming off Achilles injury, and you pay him what he's asking for, you're only putting a band-aid on the issue that we need a franchise quarterback. That's just the case. If you go get a guy like Justin Fields, you're banking on his ceiling and that he's going to be able to turn his career around with a new scenery, getting rid of a new coaching staff and things like that. That's what you're banking on, right? But I can say the same thing if you go get a young quarterback, right? You're banking on that the game he showed in college that it can translate to the pros, and he's going to be as dynamic as he was in college, right? Those are what you're hoping when you go out and get a quarterback. This is one of the hardest positions to go and and find for your team. You can just go through the history of drafting and getting quarterbacks and putting them on teams and understanding. That's why so many quarterback needy teams in the NFL right now. So either way the Falcons go, but they need to be able to have a decision and be decisive about it. If they decide to go with the veteran like a Kirk Cousins, right? They need to be decisive about it, but they need to have a plan, a future plan to put in place for that, right? The same thing for a guy like Justin Fields. Like I said, in my opinion, you get him. You don't have to pay him for a couple of years. You pick up the fifth-year option. You have that big price tag, in 2025, right? But that means if you're not 100% sold on him in 2025, that means he probably is not the guy then, right? Right? Because if you're not willing to give him a contract extension after this season, he probably not the guy for you. So those are some of the things you got to consider and think about. But basically, what I'm saying is that either guy that they decide to choose, our Kirk Cousins or Justin Fields, they got to be 100% sold. Everybody in the building need to be like, this our guy. This is what we're sticking with. Same way they went last year, that everybody was on the Ritter board, on the Ritter train. Everybody was on the Ritter train, right? We saw how it got derailed really quickly. We was riding high those first two games, 2-0, right? And then it started to go downhill, and it never got back on track, man. It just didn't, right? Got benched a couple of times, so on and so forth and things like that. But, they got to make a decision on this. This is a tough decision for the Falcons. And the mere fact that so many teams need a quarterback, that's why it's so hard for them to make the decision. If it was like just a couple of teams need a quarterback, they could have that pick of the litter and make a decision. The biggest thing is, free agency is first. Free agency and all those things are first. The draft is last, right? So, if you decide you're going to wait to the draft, you can miss out on all the other opportunities, a trade or picking up a free agency and all those things, right? If you're waiting on the draft. So that's why they have to make a decision probably before the draft where they're going to go with quarterback, right? And they probably need to make that, as soon as the new league year, which is be around March 14th, because at that time it's going to get hot. Free agency is going to be popping, right? Business is going to be back up and running in the NFL. And if you're banking on the draft, right, you're going to lose out on all the free agents and things like that. Then this is where you got to go out in the draft and get somebody, because now you're stuck, right? So those why they got to make a decision. Before that, if they're planning on moving up in the draft, they probably need to try to sell that and go ahead and move up in the draft before March 14th, in my opinion. I know you got it's a long time, between that March 14th date, which is a new league year, and the draft list is in April. But if they don't make moves in free agency, trade for a guy or anything like that before the draft, pretty much we're banking on them going out and they have decided that they like, a guy in the draft, and they're going to try to go get one of those guys. That would be my opinion. What the Atlanta Falcons would do. We'll just have to wait to see. But of course, these are just rumors about Kirk Cousins and Justin Fields. Hopefully, I gave you my opinion. That's what I think. I don't know what direction they go. Honestly, I wouldn't be like devastated for any of these guys coming to the team. I said Kirk Cousins, I just think they would have to have a plan in place, for future, what we're going to do with the quarterback position in the future. Justin Fields, I just would hope that, change the scenery, our offense tailor around him, put him around, this team that is already set up for success. Maybe, his attributes, things that he's already, abilities start to show more. because he don't have to. We would not ask him to do everything, right? He just need to be able to deliver the ball to his playmakers, right? Protect the ball, fix some of the things that he had issue with, like holding on to the ball too long. Simplify the game for him. Make him have to read, like stuff like that, quick reads, things like that. Tailor the offense around this young man until he grow. I know he's been in the league 3 years already. He already played 40 games, so you would think by now, we would be seeing what we need to see from guy. But sometimes, guys, it's just some players get in situations and they never can recover, and turn into the player that they should have been all along. And hopefully, if the Atlanta Falcons do decide to go with a guy like Justin Fields, maybe it could start clicking for him. That's the hopes. We'll just have to see. So let's go down some of you guys' comments. I know you guys had a lot to say when I was talking about Justin Fields. So let's see here. Oh, man. Nathan said coaches matter. Fields hasn't had a good coach or coordinator. He finally had a decent O-line and a couple receiving threats and commanding more. See, that's and you saw he actually started to have a little success. I agree with you, right? He finally got a talented receiver. Cole Kmet is really good tight end, but the offensive line still has, even though they did run the ball well, they still had a couple issues with the offensive line. Fields had a fifth-year option. You can have him 2 years before paying him. Exactly. That's 100% the case. That's why, the whole you have to pay him right away is not that's not a true statement. 100% not a true statement. If you watch college tape, he's good from the pocket. Him and Daniels have the same style of play at quarterback. You're right. I mean, the only reason I don't like to watch Ohio State film a lot because those guys are so talented in Ohio State. And I mean, honestly, every throw Justin Fields made in Ohio State, the guys are like wide open, man. So like, it don't really show me how talented he really is and how he can read defenses because, in Ohio State, when they had Justin Fields, man, they had some playmakers there. And a lot of those guys were wide ass open. So I mean, it was perfect. It was like perfect for him to be as good as he is because he is so talented. So, but I agree with you. He can throw from the pocket. He can make every throw, and he's accurate. He's an accurate down the field passer. Just go back and look at the tape. That's one thing I can say that our boy Desmond is not. He cannot. He's not accurate down the field. But Justin Fields has a arm. He can throw that ball, man. So that's what I'm saying. He's a better version of Michael Vick. He's bigger. I can tell you that much. They can also tag him after the fifth-year option. Right, exactly right. They can actually franchise tag him after that, but that'll be a big cap hit right now because you're looking at those quarterback salaries, man. If you franchise tag him after that fifth-year option, that would not be a good idea. So hopefully by then they'll be determined if they have to find out before free agency if the Patriots want to trade pick exactly. And that's what I'm talking about. They need to know this like right. So hopefully, the scouting combine when all the teams are there, scouting the rookies and things like that. These general managers, can get in rooms and start having conversations, dialogues. It'd be agents there. Everything is right there, and it's centralized right there in Indianapolis for the combine. So, these guys can start to communicate and talk. And to your point, if they can go ahead and make a decision on the Patriots, if moving up to number 3, they want to do that. Yes, that's what I'm saying. These decisions need to be known now because when free agents start to kick, they got to be able to have a plan, right? We know we need a pass rusher, right? But if you still don't have the quarterback situation figured out, what you do with that money that you have at quarterback. What you do? Do you go ahead and get the defensive player you need, filling some of our holes, or do you hold pat and try to get a quarterback in free agency? That's the decision they got to make. Nathan Floyd said they could go cornerback at 8. It's a lot of talented cornerbacks that's out there. This draft has deep cornerbacks, deep receivers, really deep receivers, deep quarterbacks, right? Not all freaking top 10 quarterbacks. So the quarterback class is really deep. One thing is not deep in, it's not deep in pass rusher. So if they don't get one at 8, now they're starting to not pick, some of the most talented guys out there. So because they might lose out. I think it's like 3 elite pass rushers in this draft. So if that would be Turner, of course, Verse, and Latu from UCLA. So those guys, all 3 of those guys, I think, Latu, they still need to figure out about his medicals, because remember, he was medically retired. He was medically retired in college when he was with the University of Washington, but then he somehow got cleared at UCLA and went there and he dominated. So definitely it's going to be interesting at the combine to look at his medicals and see, can he continue his career, and things like that could work in working teams' favor, because if the doctor saying that, it could be a situation where he can't play long, some teams going to take him off their draft board right away, right? So he could fall, and some team could get a really good player later on in the draft, and he might not never, get injured or something like that. And you got a world-class athlete because, his medicals. King Kill says they got until May 2nd to get him a free option. That's the deadline. So basically, need to trade for him before that date and be able to follow that plan. Right. So they'll have two guys they have to pick up. So they had to pick up, of course, Kyle Pitts' fifth year option. They got to that date to pick up his fifth year option. And you're right, they will have to have also be able to pick up Justin Fields' fifth year option as well. Now, one thing that we do know, and it's similar to what we seen last year, AJ Terrell, he's coming up on his fifth year. If they decide to extend him, that would be awesome, because that's going to open up a lot of cap space for us as well. So anticipate looking for that extension from AJ Terrell soon. I'm pretty sure they are already talking about it. And we should see that. We probably see that. We might see it before free agency start, because they can do that now because he's still on the roster. They can actually go ahead and extend him now. So hopefully we haven't heard anything. One thing that's good about Terry Fontenot, he do not, he kind of keep that kind of stuff behind the scenes. We don't know about it until, it's a deal done. Kind of what we saw Chris Lindstrom last year, right? So kind of we saw with Jake Matthews, guys that's on the team that we know we want to keep. Now, if they're free agent, we might start hearing about the free agency, stuff like that. But since AJ is not a free agent yet, they can go ahead and get that deal done. So that would definitely open up a lot of more cap space for us as well. Get a proven quarterback unless they can take Drake May. So Tater the Disc guy, golf guy, says that we should go the veteran route. And like I said, I don't have a problem with that. If that's what they decide, it would be on them to decide. Of course, only 2 guys that I would even consider that, in my opinion, though, would be your Kirk Cousins or your Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. Any other guy, in my opinion, guys that's been, career backups, no, that's, I don't want it. No Jacoby Brissett's, no Tyrod Taylor's, not no Gardner Minshew's. None of those guys. Those guys considered career backups, and I would not want to, go get a veteran guy like that. So you would go get a proven veteran, a guy like a Russell Wilson, who's, in the last couple seasons don't look like the one from Seattle, but still would be an upgrade here in Atlanta. And a guy like Kirk Cousins, depending on what he's asking for, So to your point, if they want to go get a proven guy, I don't have a problem with that. Right. Only thing I would say is they need to have a plan in place for the future, right? Because we don't want to be talking about this in the next couple of years, talking about Atlanta Falcons need a quarterback. So if you're going to go with a veteran guy, what's your succession to bring in, for the future? And like I said, if they go veteran, they can 100% go and draft a guy later on in the draft and let him sit and learn behind whatever veteran they draft. And I will also say Desmond Ritter, he can learn as well. Desmond Ritter might end up being the guy one day. I'm not going to, take that away. He is just in his second year. The same thing I said about Justin Fields it can be said about Desmond Ritter. Only difference and what I say about Justin Fields and Desmond Ritter had a ready-made team for him. This team was all they needed was a quarterback to play well, and we would have been in the playoffs this year. So that's the only difference. I don't think Justin Fields had that kind of situation set up for him. So that's why I'm a little bit higher on a Justin Fields than a Desmond Ritter. The ceiling is definitely higher, and I think Desmond Ritter came into a perfect situation, and all we asked him to do is protect the football and make the right plays. And we would have been in the playoffs, man. I said, did I freeze up? Wallace says, what's going on with you, Recondo? From what I heard, Zach Robinson press conference, Field doesn't fit what he wants that's a great point, because you have to listen, right? He said a guy that want to be the most competitive guy in the room, right? He want accuracy. If you listen to what Raheem Murray said, he want a guy that is elite process, right. So right now, I agree with you. We don't see none of those things, so I can't not argue with what you're saying, because those things, and what we've seen in 40 game sample size, he has not shown that on the consistent basis, right? All I can say is that maybe it's the ceiling, right? Some guys, like I said, they said Josh Allen, had issues. He was inaccurate and things like that. You get good coaching, guys that's willing to develop you. You could actually be better for it. So that's the only thing I can say. I can't argue with you, because the things that they were saying they like in quarterbacks, right now, Justin Field hasn't showed that on a consistent basis. You are 100% correct, Wallace. I don't know what we got to do to get a real competent quarterback. Man, we just got everything need to fall in place for us. That's what I think. If we have everything fall in place for us, that would be great. That would be great. Right, free agency is going to determine which way they go with a quarterback. Exactly. We got to know what they're going to do. Let's see here. Eric Hunter, I agree with you. It's only Cousin and Russell red quarterbacks now. We don't get one of them free agency. Then I see us getting a quarterback in the draft. Right, I agree. So when we talk about quarterbacks in the draft, right? And guys, you have to know this, and because we see it, right? And we say this guy 1, this guy 2, this guy 3. The teams might not see it that way. They might not see it that way, right? And I've been hearing J.J. McCarthy name a lot, right? And I believe he's going to push up people draft boards. I think he might be higher on people draft boards than we actually know, right? So we got to think about that. I think that is a huge thing that we need to consider. Is that some of these quarterbacks could be higher up on people draft boards than we kind of anticipate, right? We know what we've seen in the 3 guys that we like. Everybody had consensus that, but however, It's 32 different flavors. It's 32 different, front offices, 32 different coaching staff. All these guys don't think alike, right? That's why philosophies, right? We heard last year that, you shouldn't take a running back in the top 10. And guess what the Falcons did? Took one in the top 10. Detroit Lions came right behind them and took, right? So everybody's philosophies are different. So we just talked about what Zach Robinson and Raheem Morris were talking about, this, elite processor and accuracy, being the most competitive guy in the room, right? We don't know what they see in these guys, right? So, we could be at 8 and they say, we still got our guy, right? Because everybody thinking that one of those 3 guys is our number 1 guy. But no, this guy might be our number 1 guy. And we don't know if that's the case. We just have to let this play out. So I do believe if they don't do anything in free agency, they don't decide to make a trade, for a guy like Justin Fields or something like that, right? It's going to be in the draft, and they either going to, stay at 8 and draft right there, or they're going to try to move up and try to make a draft. So either way, I agree with you, Wallace. They're going to have to make a decision. And then I think we'll know if they don't get anybody in free agency, they going in the draft to kind of get that guy. That would be the route they would take. And we'll just have to see who that guy will be. That's it. Sounds like Kirk Cousins' accuracy processing can make every throw. Get a young quarterback like JJ to learn behind him. There we go. That's why I said if they go get a guy like Kirk Cousins, I 100% believe that they could get a guy that can sit behind, and you can do it like I mean, isn't it amazing how the Green Bay Packers probably went over like three decades, almost 4 decades, and they never had an issue at quarterback. They just had Brett Favre for so many years, had Aaron Rodgers for so many years. Now they got Jordan Love, right? And it's you've got to love it the way they did it, right? And they hit. It's not like they freaking got some kind of, some kind of freaking mirror to say, yeah, this is what it's going to do. Some kind of globe, be like, yeah, this is the guy I want. This is why, and we know. It's just luck, man. They go out and draft, and you got to get Brian Gutekunst. You got to give him his props. He doing his thing out there, man, because he went and got Jordan Love. Aaron Rodgers was upset, but guess what? Aaron Rodgers is gone. They got the guy, right? We don't want to be one of those teams where we're talking about quarterbacks every year, man. That's where we're at now. The last 3 seasons, we've been talking about quarterback position. So, we don't want to be that team. So if they go get a guy, I agree with you. If they get a Kirk Cousins, they still need to draft a quarterback. These mock drafts are just for fun, for people to do because draft day teams do something totally different than what. Yes, 100%. Because like I said, we don't know. Like, so for an example, right? TJ Watt. Let's go back. Let's go back in history a little bit, right? The Atlanta Falcons, they had Takk McKinley higher on their board than TJ Watt. Think about it. We could have had TJ Watt, right? He got drafted after Takk McKinley. Takk McKinley is not even in the league, right? So, like I said, it's you never know what's gonna happen, right? You never know, how this thing pan out, man. But you never know. Now, some guys, they just talented, and then they might have a red flag or something. You decide because of the red flag, you're gonna take them off the board. Like for an example, Jalen Carter last year, I think the Falcons took him off the board because of whatever red flags they might thought he had. Right, that's why they decided to go Bijan Robinson instead. Because Jalen Carter was on the board, he got picked up right after that. But TJ Watt was right there. And look, he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer one day. And we picked Takk McKinley, and he's not even in the league. Right? So draft these. We don't know what these guys thinking. It feels good to us, and I think I did probably like 15 mock drafts last year. I probably posted like 4 or 5 here on this channel, but I probably did by like 15 to 20 mock drafts myself, trying to figure out what they was going to do, because you just know what the media is saying. Right? We have no idea what these 32 teams think about these guys, because they're not going to, they're going to keep it close to the vest, man. That's what they do. So you're 100% right. It's fun. It's nice to try to figure out where route people going, but you don't know about trades. You don't know all the medicals, right? You don't know everything. We don't know their personalities and things like that, the fit for the team. We know there's stuff we don't know, and we will never know that kind of stuff. So the mock drafts are cool, right? But we don't know. It says J.J. McCarthy played in a pro-style offense behind the center shotgun, can make NFL throws, learn from NFL head coach and Jim Barr. He's 21 years old, and he can sit for 2 or 3, develop even more. I'm telling you, I believe he might be higher on people. Jim Harbaugh said he's the best quarterback in the draft. That's what he said. Now, the problem with J.J. McCarthy is to what Ro Stackson just said is the fact that he was in a pro. They ran the ball a lot, so he wasn't asked to throw the ball as much. He was not asked to throw the ball as much. So they wasn't like the college offenses where it's spread out and everybody's in shotgun, right? You want to be able to get up on the center, right? A lot of these quarterbacks have never been up on the center either. So that's one thing you got to think about when you're trying to get up on the center. I mean, you have never did that before because you've been in these spread offenses your whole career and things like that. And it's nuances and things like that. So to your point, J.J. McCarthy was coached by Jim Harbaugh, who probably more than likely prepared in more than a lot of other coaches prepared a guy for the pros. So great point. We don't know where it's gonna fall. Like I said, this is one of the play situations where you're looking at the stats and numbers, and where he wasn't asked to do a whole lot, and you're not as high on him as some of these other guys. So, but that don't mean that the teams are not high on him. So, like I said, Atlanta Falcons might say J.J. McCarthy is gonna be there at number 8, and they might pick him. And then we all gonna be like, "What? Like, I can't believe this. That's a bad pick, whatever." Right? We don't know. Like, that's the way it works. So, so let's be honest with ourselves. We're gonna have a question for you. What do you think about getting T-Ray Runner, DJ Sweat from Texas, the second round to plug in the middle of 3-4 defense? That's what they got. They got to get a big body, man. 100%. I agree with you, Wallace. They're going to have to go out and get a big – we'll see. So, in my opinion, the pass rusher is the biggest thing that I think they need to go get. Because I think you can get a big boy to plug in the middle to be that 3-4 guy. But that pass rusher is the key. And I'm going to tell you the reason why it's the key. Because you have to double team Grady Jarrett and David Omiyale. If you don't, they're going to wreck the game. But if you got a dominant pass rush on the outside, guess what? He got to be doubled as well. He got to be chipped as well. So now you got 3 guys, on your line, especially when they go pass downs, right? That somebody got to put 2 bodies on, or they're going to wreck the game. Right, so I think the most important thing for Atlanta Falcons on defense is to get a elite pass rusher, somebody that can get out to the quarterback, that demands that you know where he's at on the field, and then guys like Grady and Omiyale can do what they do, man. Right, that's why. But if they're going to run 3-4, you're 100% correct. They got to get somebody huge and big to put in the middle to keep those guys off your linebackers. That's what the 3-4 is. It's going to be the base, but let's be honest. A lot of times in the NFL, most offenses don't stay in base anyway. So to me, it's gonna be more of a hybrid, kind of defense where they go 11 personnel and things like that. They go a lot of nickel. So we'll just have to see how it pan out. It's going to be interesting to see how this defense pan out. One thing I like about this defense is I would say this. I think if anything is going to be elite, it's going to be the secondary, right? I mean, Raheem Morris, background in secondary. Jimmy Lake, background in secondary, right? Jerry Gray, background in secondary. That secondary better be elite. It better be elite, man. That's a lot of guys that has background, in that secondary. And if they can't have an elite secondary, I don't know what to say. Like that's a lot of knowledge. I mean, that's what these guys was they've been defensive backs coach, pretty a lot of them like their whole career. All right. So, that secondary should be great, which in turn would help, our front seven all day long. So that's what I like because of that experience there. Like they got a lot of dogs back there, man. Like think about how many secondary guys they got that's just gonna pay dividends for us. And if we get that kind of elite play in the back, it's gonna only help the front seven. So haven't watched Elijah McCarthy yet. He's next. Right. Like I said, now I have watched something. I have watched some on McCarthy tape. Like I said, the only problem with McCarthy is they was really good running team. Really good running team. Guess what? Atlanta Falcons are a really good running team. And one thing about the offense we're going in is predicated on running the ball. That's where it is. You got different philosophies. You got the June Jones of the world, the Cliff Kingsbury's of the world, and things like that, right? But if you go back to traditional football back in the day and how you dominate a game offensively, you got to be able to run the ball, right? And if you can run the ball, everything else you do, is predicated off that. That's what you want to do. So if you're able to run the ball and be dominated, that guess what? Everything else will just flow for you. That's what they did at Michigan, right? They ran the ball a lot, and JJ McCarthy made plays when he had to make plays. That's what it was. Now I'm not here selling JJ McCarthy because, to your point, I haven't watched him enough to say that he's an elite or not. I just don't know. I mean, I'm like you, but the facts are he was coached by Jim Harbaugh, who's is a really successful coach in college and in the pros. So, and he, of course, he's biased, but he definitely sold off on him, saying that of course, he too biased, in my opinion, because he said he's the best quarterback in the draft. But you never know, man. Somebody could be getting a diamond in the rough. We just don't even know. Let's see here. I think they're going to go top edge in free agency and get one of those young defensive tackles in the draft. I agree. That's why I said that's what I would do. I would go get me a free agent. I mean, and it depends on how, like I said, first of all, you think about it, they extend AJ, that's gonna open up cap. They release Taylor Heineke, that's gonna open up cap. They released Lorenzo Carter, that's open up cap, right? And then if they want to they don't need to do this, but if they want to add even a little more cap space, they can restructure a deal, open up a little more cap. And if they do all that, one reason I'm saying that because it depends on where they go with the quarterback. So they might have to go in free agency for a quarterback. That you got to pay a quarterback, and then that's going to hurt some of our other needs that we need in free agency because you're going quarterback. So that's one of the things we definitely got to think about and decide what we're going to do. So, Nathan Floyd said, defensive tackle Mason Smith out of LSU, 6'5", 315. So I just to be honest with you guys, I haven't gotten to the draft, not just yet, going against some of these guys. I'm so freaking tied into what they're going to do with this quarterback position. Kind of threw me off my whole offseason schedule. If you go back and look what I did last year, I was already talking about draftees and things like that. But this quarterback thing, it's got me all off, man, because I don't know what they're gonna do. And to me, like that's going to determine a lot, like what they go, what direction they go in quarterback. So, and once we know that, we kind of figure out that the rest. I think everything, all the other dominoes will fall. But I'm definitely going to start getting to some of these draft prospects and trying to see how they would fit this Atlanta Falcon team, especially going to a base 3-4. The good thing about changing and going to a base 3, I think the drafting they did the first 2 seasons kind of definitely helped with the personnel, because I think a lot of these guys was brought in the first 2 seasons to fit a base 3-4. Guys like D'Angelo Malone, Eric Katie, and things like that. So going back to that, they won't have a lot of holes to fill and a lot of things to change, right? But I believe, because you got to also remember, Raheem Morris was brought up in the Tampa 2 as well, right? Now he has done a lot of other things since that, but he was brought up in that scheme as well, the Tampa 2, right? And that was a 4-3. So I think it's going to be a little hybrid, and we'll see where it goes from there. Even though Michigan was a run team, he made clutch passes and is immobile with his leg. Yes. I mean, it's just one pass. I know everybody's seen it, where he threaded the needle between 2 defenders, man. It was a pretty pass. So, like I said, we're just talking about him, but I can promise you, the other 32 teams know what they think about JJ McCarthy already. I can promise you that. They already know what they think about the kid. So it's not going to be a surprise for them. The scouts been working all year long. They just had they scout, they February meetings and things like that. So trust me when I tell you that they already know that whoever we talking about, these guys already got they got as much more information than we would ever have on all these guys. So, it could be a surprise to us, but it won't be a surprise to them. Wallace, I think we're going to load up on defense again in free agency, and then get a vet like Wentz or Mason Rudolph to help with the quarterback. So, I don't know if you've seen that. There was a report out there today talking about Pittsburgh. They're trying to make a decision. Do they want to go with Mason or the quarterback? All right. The one they just drafted, I can't think of his name right now. Just slipped off my tongue. But they might not even go veteran, which was interesting to me, because we all thought Ryan Tannehill was going to be the guy in Pittsburgh, right? But Mason Rudolph probably won't. Like I said, he probably stay with the Steelers. The tech out of Michigan, Chris Jenkins, that guy is a monster, man. He's a monster, Chris Jenkins. Yeah, man. The way he played against Alabama, and then what he did at Washington was really, really amazing. So, yes, I like him. McCarthy is going to get drafted in the first round. Oh, hell yeah. I agree with you. I think he's going to the first round too. And I think if he Kenny Pickett, thank you. I think if he fall to Denver, I think the Denver Broncos is going to pick him. What's up, Millie Mills? I think the Denver Broncos is going to pick JJ McCarthy if he fall to that. I do believe. And I agree. I think he's going to get drafted in the first round. And I mean, we just don't know, guys. Like that's what's so interesting about this. Nobody anticipated freaking Zach Wilson to go so high. Didn't turn out well though, right? Nobody anticipated the Bears to pick, the guy over Deshaun Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, but they did. It didn't work out. So Everybody already solidified those three quarterbacks as the top three guys. But when I tell you that some guys gonna start raising the board, like Bo Nix for an example, man. You never know. Bo Nix could rise on the board. Michael Penix is a outstanding accurate passer, right? And he's gonna slip on. I think because first of all, Michael Penix is old. Bo Nix is old. Those guys are been in college a long time. So have they reached a ceiling? We don't know. That's the only thing I don't like about those older guys coming out. You're talking about Pickett. Yeah, Pickett. I don't know why. I don't know why I couldn't think about his name. Denver Vikings Raiders. There you go. Yeah, I think one of those guys. Okay. Right. So some of them teams like, yeah, sleep on them. Sleep on them. Y'all go up and get those three guys you want to, and y'all sleep on them. We're gonna pick our guy. Right. So that's why don't be surprised. If Atlanta at number 8 pick a quarterback, don't be surprised. He said Penix, biggest medical. Yeah, man. We're gonna have to figure. I guess we'll hear about that. His medical, because he's been injured a lot. So that could be definitely he could be a guy. What reason why he dropped off the board? He say, I think nose tackle have to be 330 or bigger to have played in the 3-4 to plug the middle. I mean, if you go back traditional, you're 100% correct. You go to what Baltimore did with Lodi Nada. You see what New England did with Vince Wilfork. You're correct. You're right. You need a big boy in there, man. I'm gonna tell you somebody that really impressed me. He's not a nose tackle. Mike Pennell, man. Did you guys see Mike Pennell wrecking the game in the Super Bowl? Man, he was putting hands on big Trent Williams, man. He was putting hand on Trent Williams. And I was like, damn, we had Mike Pennell, didn't we? I thought we had that guy. Like, why he didn't do that with us? Like, he was beasting though. And I was like, man, we need him. Like, go get that guy. The way he played in the Super Bowl. I mean, man, he was pushing around Trent Williams, and Trent Williams probably arguably the best left tackle in the game, and he was making Trent Williams look soft, man. The way he was pushing them around. So, if you know what I'm talking about, go back and look at what Mike Pennell was doing. I mean, he was stuffing the run. He made a huge play on third down to force the San Francisco 49ers kick a field goal. A lot of people, Chris Jones was getting pressure, on the quarterback, but Mike Pennell was stuffing that run, man. And so I just had to bring him up because I was just amazed, and I was like, we had that guy. Like, I'm like, what? Why he didn't play like that for us? So if it ain't a quarterback, then Denver has to be Jared Verse. Yeah, I like him from out of Florida State. I do like Jared Verse. A lot of people say, Turner, but Turner, of course, is by name because of the school he went to. But he was really good this year. And he didn't get all the accolades, and that's what happens when you go to teams like Alabama, because what's the name dominated the pass rush last year, and then Turner got his turn this year. That's just the way it works. So, never works out like you want it. Yep, they all old and they probably have to sit for a year, not long-term investment. Plus GM draft like high ceiling potential. Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like Bo Nix, man. Like, I remember Bo Nix. He played like 3 years at Auburn, right? And he got a COVID year, so he played 2 years in Oregon. So like this guy, I mean, he should be dominating college. He's been there 5 seasons, so I don't know what to think about that. Those old guys, man. Some of those guys like Penix and Nix, they just be just as old as Justin Fields. Justin Fields been in the league 3 years already, right? So like, that's what I'm saying. Wallace said, "Did we have Peniel?" No, we didn't have him under Dean Pease. He was under Dan Quinn. It was under Dan Quinn. He wasn't here with Dean Pease. It was a while ago. Way while ago. I think it was because I know we had Dontari Poe, but I think it was after Dontari Poe we had Mike Pennell, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm wrong, guys, just tell me. But I could have swore we had him on our roster. But he didn't play like he played in that Super Bowl. I can tell you that. I'm just going to throw that out. He didn't play like that. Well, guys, thank you guys for sticking with me. Of course, I blacked out for about about a couple of minutes there. So thank you guys for sticking on. I want you guys to go ahead and put more comments about this. Like I said, personally for me, these are rumors about both of these quarterbacks. If they decide to pull the trigger on either one of them, I guess it's their plan, right? Of course, we've been talking about it. My plan is to go get a young guy. It's just the way I would do it. I think it's enough young guys in this draft. The Atlanta Falcons can try to build that team up, right? Especially where they're sitting at number 8. Only way a team can jump them to come down, and they're gonna have to pay up a lot of capital to go get one of those guys. So I would stay pat at number 8 or move up. If you think one of those 3 guys that that everybody's talking about are a consensus top 3 picks, right? Go that route. But if they're going to stay pat and take a chance on one of these other quarterbacks, because they did their due diligence and think it's a good idea to do that. But I wouldn't be upset about a Kirk Cousins as long as they got a plan in place for future. And Justin Fields, they put him in the right position, to live up to his potential. That's always what people say, but I'm honestly saying that he is a talented. He has a lot of talent. If he can live up to that, he can really be good for us. So either guy would be good, or the third option, neither one of those guys, and go to the draft and try to rock it there. Russell Wilson probably will be another guy that everybody want to talk about, but until Russell Wilson is cut from the Denver Broncos, he's still on their team. So he and right now he's not an option for us. It might have been with Pease. I can't remember. Nathan said everyone has their preferred guy. Mine is Drake May. Drake May starting to grow on me as well. Mine is Jaden Daniels, I guess, because of the upside he has, and like a lot of people saying earlier that he's a younger, Justin Fields, Lamar Holmes, Michael Vick, all those guys. And one thing I like about Jaden Daniels is that his anticipation on throws. He already has the mindset is that he's not holding the ball waiting to guys open. He's throwing them open, right? He's throwing he already throwing to spots where his guy's supposed to be. He's throwing timing, right? Guys are still have not came out their break yet, and he's already throwing the ball. That's anticipation. That's something you can't teach. And he already is showing that in college. So that's what I like about Jaden Daniels. Then his explosiveness and things like that. I like that as well. So that's why he's my guy. Drake May is the prototypical quarterback, pocket passer. Maybe fits, Zach Robinson skill set, what he wanted in a quarterback more than anybody else in the draft. And then of course, Caleb Williams. It's just his suddenness, the way he plays, his off schedule, the way I think you will have to hone him in, try to make him play within the system. But when the system break down, the way he's able to create and make all throws and things like that, just something you can't teach. So that's why those guys are up there, 1, 2, and 3. But I guess if you really want to, be fair to these other quarterbacks, you need to make sure you break down all their film and see their strengths as well. And it's got to be the fit, right? It has to be a good, perfect fit for your team, right? And I'm not talking about scheme, right? Because if you got a scheme and you don't want to draft a guy because he don't fit your scheme, you're not a good coach, right? You draft a guy because you like, I'm gonna tailor my scheme around this guy and utilize his strengths. That's what you should be doing anyway. And if you can't do that, you need to probably change professions, man. Like, you don't draft a guy because he can't run your scheme, like whatever, man. Like, no, you draft a guy and you tailor your scheme around this guy because this is what he does well. Same thing that the Cincinnati Bengals did with Joe Burrow, right? They brought his offense to Cincinnati, and fix it and tailor around, but that's why he was able to hit the ground running and be so good, right? Now, it's some quarterbacks can fit in the scheme, right? It's some like, yeah, I can do that, but you want to make every quarterback fit what they do best, man. Their strengths, right? It's one thing about Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan was accurate. He could throw. His timing was he was really good in throwing timing. He didn't have the strongest arm, but his anticipation, his timing, being able to read defenses, he could do all that, right? That's why, he came in and he was real successful right off the bat. Got offensive rookie of the year, right? So those are some of the things that, hopefully, whoever we get as a young quarterback can do that. So, guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for coming and, checking me out today on a Saturday. We still got a long ways away. We got another week before we get into the combine. And I think things going to start picking up then, hopefully. But until then, we're going to start hitting these draft prospects. Probably, I think now, since we talk about quarterbacks, I'm going to start with the quarterbacks and start looking at film on those guys, breaking it down. And maybe I might change, my decision on who I would draft first after I do that. So, guys, that's all I have. Thank you guys for coming in today. This is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.